Hello everyone. When I was a kid, I saw these financial news channels and I would get befuddled. There were streamers of numbers, graphs, charts, people standing in the corner of the screen, and they were talking English words which made absolutely no sense to me. They would speak words like EBIT, EBITDA, NPM, etc. etc. I'm sure all of you as kids, when your daddy or when anyone flipped on the business news channel, you would have had the same experience, isn't it? As I grew up and as curriculum started taking over, all of these terms started making sense to me. And as I started tracking the markets, I came to know that these people are so-called market experts. Now, it was 2007, and these so-called market experts, they let me down royally. They were super bullish. Not one of them advised us to get out of the market at the end of 2007. And my small little portfolio, which was about 80,000 rupees at that point in time, in less than 4 months, it was worth 16,000 rupees. I had to sell everything that I owned in that portfolio. All the stocks that I owned, I had to sell them off in that fall. That was the time that I swore that I am going to become a market expert. And trust me, the moment I made that decision, things started to change. My brain started observing things that were around me. All the companies that were there in the market, they seemed to be somewhere around me, and I started spotting those things. I went to CCD, and out there the sugar packets, they were provided by a company which was listed in the stock market, and that is how I started making a note of companies in the market, and that is how my research journey began. Thereafter, it has been a long journey in the markets. I've studied everything from fundamental analysis, technical analysis, quantitative trading to Python now, and I stand before you here finally to tell you how to become a master equity researcher. The point is, irrespective of your education background, you can become a market expert. I was an engineer, by the way. I had no relation to finance. It was just the interest that made me go all the way. Now, getting back to the story, I started my quest for real market experts, not these so-called market experts who got me trapped in the 2007-8 rally. And I came across a friend who worked in a family business of steel trading. Now that guy, he knew more about steel than any of the people I had met before. He told me that these are the places where you'll get actual steel data. These are the manufacturers of steel. These are the consumers of steel. This much is the total produced quantity. Everything about steel. That's what he told me. And that is what got my brain thinking. I went ahead and I studied all the manufacturers of steel. I studied all the cycles of steel. I ran all the statistical calculations on steel prices, tried to find out the cycles of steel prices. So when someone gives you a push in the right direction, you go ahead in that direction and become a master. That is your first thing to become a master equity researcher. Now just think about it. I took this example of steel and then I applied it to all other industrial metals. Nickel, copper, lead, zinc, and their low. In a span of 5 to 6 months, I knew more about metals than most of the people around me. And I was a so-called expert in that sector. Not just equity, even commodity trading became a profitable endeavor. So in this way, when you mix experience with your own calculations and your own practical market observations, that is what makes you a market expert. An actual, real market expert. You need not be an expert of each and every sector. You have to start from one sector and then eventually, gradually increase your base. So that is what we are going to do in this course. We are going to start from macroeconomic research, and in the macroeconomic research we will first look at the international economies. Then we'll have a look at what the domestic economic situation is. Now when we are studying an economy or all the international economies, we look at all the parameters, the GDP, the government, the inflation, the interest rate, the financial situation, your civil situations, everything about that place, in order to realize how the economy of that place is going. So same thing we are going to do domestic, obviously in a much more detailed manner. In domestic we'll have a look at the overall economy and then at the sectorals also. Now once we are done with that, you will have a test in which you will have to give a online test of macroeconomic module that you just learned. Now all these things are present in our online content, and don't worry if you don't clear the test in the first go, you can give it again and you can pass it. The idea is that when you are doing a live project, you should be having that basic knowledge which is covered in the video lessons, and we will be talking all practical things in the video lessons. We are not going to talk textbook stuff. Hell no. I learned the market the hard way, the experience, the practical way, and that's how you guys are going to learn it too. So once we are done with the macroeconomic test, you will be eligible for all the macroeconomic live projects which are taking place. Then secondly, we are moving on to the understanding financial statement modules. Like I said, I was an engineer. Any other engineers around, you guys, I'm pretty certain that you guys are not very clear with your accounting concepts, and what you know is basically textbook stuff. So out here, right from the basics, but from an actual company's results, we are going to develop our knowledge of financial statements from actual market data and from the raw basics. And then we are going to build upon that. We are going to move on to ratios, and then we are going to move on to advanced valuation techniques, relative valuation, DCF valuations. Everything is going to be covered in our company level research. Apart from that, we are going to have sectoral level research, where you will be doing sectoral level analysis. There are specific ratios which each and every sectors demand. Now these ratios are specific to certain sectors, they may not be applicable to other sectors. Now when you are studying these ratios, you need to first know that they exist, isn't it? Now for that reason exactly, you need to know about all of this. So once you finish the sectoral section, you can give the sectoral test, and then you are eligible for all the sectoral live projects. Likewise, as we are going to do company level research, I mentioned about the financials and the valuation aspects. We'll also be covering the other company level economic aspects of the annual report and how to study the company's industry, the company's future plans, etc., etc. And those things are then going to be combined in a final test, which will be your entire equity module test. Once you give that test, you will be eligible for each and every equity research live project that we are gonna come up across. Now, how does this entire live project thing work? We at the Money Roller, we conduct live projects every couple of months, every now and then. Some are macroeconomic live projects, some are sectoral ones, and some are entire full 8-week equity research live projects. So broadly, 4-week live projects, sectoral or macro, 8-week live projects, which are broad equity research based live projects. We have put up a calendar on our website where our next few live projects and their topics have been listed already. You can go through that. You can check out when your college timings are suitable, and then you can be a part of whichever live project you want. Just ensure that prior to being that, you just give that test, then you'll be automatically be eligible to enroll in that live project. All of you are eligible to do 2 live projects with us. Beyond that, you can work with us, but that will be at the discretion of our research team. If they loved your work, obviously we will love to collaborate with you for more projects, isn't it? That's how we go. That's how we roll. Now, That is that. Now about certificates, I just want to mention that once you finish all the three modules, pass all the three tests, you'll get a certificate for training. Apart from that, for every live projects whose KRA you successfully complete, you will be getting a certificate for that as well. So I hope it is clear now. I hope it is clear for you how our next training modules, etc., are going to come about. And finally, I want to leave you guys with one more story. So I went and spoke to an analyst who was covering the banking sector. Now I asked him, what do you think about the future of the sector? And he told me a lot of things about the profitability of the banks, the ratios, how the adequacy norms are going to be played out, how the NPA situation is going to play out, how the interest rate curve of the economy is going to look like, because of which the profitability of the banks in the short term and the long term will look like so and so and such and such. He also told me about the new Basel norms which are coming up and all those aspects. While I found his reply to me pretty good, but I felt that he was lacking a certain aspect. So I went up and I looked up on articles by other researchers about the banking sector. Now, these researchers were vastly followed bloggers and financial bloggers, and they actually spoke about the banking sector in a very different way. They said that this entire sector is now looking at automation, artificial intelligence, and machine learning to actually help them reduce their manpower. Now, when that happens, their profitability might look entirely different, their hiring patterns might look entirely different, their speed of scaling up will be very fast, and they spoke about all of these things, which that analyst never spoke about. So that got me thinking that there is a lot of different opinions in the market. You have to keep on reading more and more stuff and then form your own opinion of how this stuff is headed. So I googled up that what are the Indian banks doing about this AI and machine learning thing, and I found out that a lot of Indian banks, including public sector government owned banks, they have started pilot projects in AI and machine learning for increasing their reducing their day-to-day jobs, repetitive jobs which people do, and machines will do that. Now you think about this situation, that in such a thing, what is going to happen to people like you who are going to apply into banks? Now, in the recent time, the Prime Minister announced a program for MSMEs where within 1 hour, loans up to 1 crore can get approved by his system. How? You just upload your ITR, Aadhaar, and PAN number, and they have an algo which works in the background, checks all these database for a few parameters, and decides that this person is good enough to get a loan up to this amount. Now, if a machine does all of this in 1 hour, what is going to happen to credit officers in the banks, and how few credit officers are going to get required in the days to come as compared to the present situation? Now think about this. What is going on in banks, and what are you being taught in your colleges? How students are still looking for jobs in banks, but they might get replaced by machines sooner than we think. So it is very important to have updated knowledge. It is very important to speak to market sector for any sector that you are looking at. And I just wanted to leave you with that thought, that when you are an expert in the sector, you think in the future, you know what all that sector is trying out, and you are prepared for it from the start. So that was the induction to the project. I hope you guys are really kicked about the project, and I'll see you inside the sessions. Bye.